Hello. Welcome back to my haunted library. It's Regina, otherwise known as Glinda the Good Witch. I found this little, I never wear yellow, but I found this little blouse the other day on sale and I thought, I don't know, it kind of felt like something from the 1930s or something. So anyway, thought I would give it a go. But today I'm just doing a video catching up with what I've been reading and what I've been doing. I just got back from a lovely week in the woods. Last week, Lily and Batilda and I went to the cabin in the woods to just kind of chill out and commune with nature. And it was a lot of fun. And I do this like once or twice a year. Sometimes I go down to the shore off season. So now that things are opening up again, I'll probably will be doing that as well. But anyway, I did get some reading done, and my reading has been all over the place. I kind of put V.C. Andrews on hold for a while. I'm going to pick that up probably more as like summer reading, because those are great beach reads or even backyard reads. So I thought I would just kind of tell you where I've been at. I also have a little mini haul that I went to the secondhand bookstore near my house the other day and picked up some things. So what have I been reading? Well, I read a book by Dean Koontz that I had definitely heard of. I guess it's one of his most popular books in kind of recent years. It came out in 2000, and that is Intensity. Now, I did this as a buddy read with Lydia over at Typical Books, and I don't know if she's posted a review for it yet, but I'll link it below if she does, or I'll link her channel. Now, I thought that I owned Intensity, but it was actually Velocity. So you can see why I confused them. I know Intensity has like this intense green cover. This one kind of matches my blouse. Anyway, I ended up buying it on Kindle, which was fine. I really enjoyed reading it. And it's very much like a wild ride. And it was hard to put down. It's one of those books. It was just like a page turner. So this story is about a young woman named China Shepherd. She's 26. She is studying psychology. And she has a lot of baggage in her past, like from her family. And she's staying with a friend, a good friend. And they're staying at her parents' house in the country, which is like up in Washington State, like in the forest. And there's a home invasion, and the entire family is slaughtered except for her. She survives. The first part of the story is her sort of fleeing from the killer, and then she starts pursuing the killer. And then at one point, it switches point of view where we see his kind of where he's coming from, this killer. I don't want to give too much away because it's one of those books that has a lot of twists and turns. This was the kind of book that is just like a wild ride. It's like a carnival ride. I can see where Dean Koontz is a very popular writer and very skilled. I guess he gets compared to Stephen King a lot, but I think where King gives so much more detail. Not that Koontz kind of skips over it, but you just get enough, and it never slows down the pace of the story. And it's very plot driven, unlike King, at least in his later work. Of course, they're both great writers. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I think Lydia liked it too. And it was fun doing a buddy read with her. I did another buddy read with some of my booktube friends. Lydia was one of them. Marie McWilliams, Merce from Harpies in the Trees, and Alex from The Bookubus. And we read In the Dark by Richard Laymon, and that was a lot of fun. In fact, I read that book while I was at the cabin, and I was a little freaked out. It wasn't as scary as I think some of the other Laymon books I read. I've only read a few, but it was definitely good. And yes, the word rump is repeated, and panties, repeated quite a few times, and we were cracking up in our messages about that. So I think when we might do a group video about that book, but that was a lot of fun. And also Lydia just scored a huge Richard Laymon haul off eBay. I will link her video below so you can check that out if you are a Richard Laymon fan. I never really was a big Richard Laymon fan, but after reading this book, I think I might become a big Richard Laymon fan because it was like the Dean Koontz book. It was just like a fun ride. It's the way it's structured is really good too because it's like a game. Kind of like that movie, The Game, with Michael Douglas, which I really love. But the story is about a librarian who finds a cryptic note telling her to go. It gives a clue, and then she goes and looks at, finds the book, and then the book is the next clue. And she has a guy who's like a boyfriend that they sort of have a relationship that develops over the course of the book, who's with her on some of these nocturnal adventures where she's trying to find these clues. And each time she gets a clue, she gets more money. But the boyfriend, it's kind of like, is he the guy that's doing it? Or can we trust him? It's that kind of story. It was really good. I'm going to do more of a thorough review of that with the gals I read it with. So I read that at the cabin. And yeah, I got a little scared. There was one night at the cabin where it was rainy and it got dark and kind of cold. And I didn't, have much to do except read the Richard Laymon book. And it kind of got under my skin a little bit in a good way. All right, so what else have I been reading? Well, I'm still reading the Wheel of Time series. I am now on The Shadow Rising, which is book 4 by Robert Jordan. I'm about 200 pages in, which means I have a long way to go. I have not been reading it every day, and I've been reading other things, but probably sometime this afternoon, I'm going to sit down for an hour or two and read a little more. Sometimes I put on the audiobook as well, but I've been also reading some other things on audiobook. It's terrible, but I will get to it. I feel like with The Wheel of Time, I'm just kind of dipping into it when I feel like it. So it probably will take me another, 20 years if I live that long to finish the entire series. But I'm enjoying it. In fact, I think this book is my favorite one so far. I am pretty much into it. So maybe I will just kind of dig in, try to knock off, 100 pages. I feel like I don't want to read with that kind of frame of mind, though, if that makes sense. Like, I just want to read for pleasure. So I'm putting undue pressure on myself. So I've had this book in my Kindle for a while, and I finally started reading Dawn by, not V.C. Andrews, another Dawn by Octavia Butler. I've never read anything by her, and I really want to. So I went, maybe I'm about 50 pages in. I'm really enjoying it so far. But then, as happens sometimes, I started watching the Netflix series, and I binged on it in like 2 nights, about the Sons of Sam. It's so good. So I put Octavia aside just temporarily because I had to read the book that went along with the series. So the Netflix series is called The Sons of Sam, A Descent into Darkness. It's a limited series on Netflix. I forget how many episodes, but it's not that long. It's very well done. If you love true crime and the occult mixed, wow, it's great. And the book by the man who's featured, the journalist who's featured in the documentary, his name's Maury. He wrote a book about this called The Ultimate Evil, The Truth About the Cult Murders, Son of Sam and Beyond. His theory, based on decades of research, and he does have a very convincing case, is that David Berkowitz did not act alone. That's pretty evident from what the documentary shows, but he also makes a connection with these occult groups, with Charles Manson and others. I don't think that quite worked. I mean, I don't think this was like that organized, but it is a really incredible story. And so I had to start reading the book. So I got the book on Kindle. The original book, the cover and everything, it was very intriguing. And if any of you watch the series and you love Paperbacks from Hell, it really has that kind of cover. Of course, I went on eBay, A-Books, and a Libris to see if I could find it. And they were all like, hundreds of dollars or more. So I got the Kindle version, and I've been reading it, and I'm really enjoying it. It's really good. It scared me. That whole story really scared me. I remember when Son of Sam was going on. I remember when that summer. And yeah, it was really frightening, but I'd never heard of this theory. Now, I think unfortunately for Maury, who was obsessed with this case, absolutely obsessed, and convinced he was right, and he really put in the research and the legwork. I think unfortunately he got caught up in that satanic panic that was happening in the 80s and early 90s with Geraldo Rivera. He was on his show. I remember when all that stuff was going down. It was really scary and very damaging where, I mean, I think obviously there are cults, but I do think that there are, if you want to call it devil worshipping cults, as far as, people who are trying to do evil in the world. But the satanic panic made it was ridiculous where, suddenly the kindergarten teacher, was going in underground tunnels with her class and performing all kinds of rituals. And people were sent to jail for this. There was a really scary documentary that I can't find on YouTube. I don't know what happened to it. It just disappeared. But it's a Frontline documentary about a case of satanic panic in North Carolina where a daycare center, it wasn't the McMartin case, which was famous, but another case, because these task groups went to these different places to interview the children, and basically they implanted false memory into the children. A lot of this stuff started with a book called Michelle Remembers, which I do have, the original paperback, which I haven't read, but it's about a woman who claimed that she, through her, and I think it's also written by her psychiatrist, she remembered being being abused by a satanic cult when she was a child. It didn't, these didn't pan out. In fact, it became a very dangerous thing. But the Son of Sam thing, I think he really has a point. So I am still reading that book, The Ultimate Evil, and enjoying it immensely. When I finish it, I will have a separate review. If you haven't watched the Netflix series, I highly, highly recommend it. I was on the edge of my seat. It's really good and really scary. All right, so I thought I would end this video with a little mini haul from my local secondhand bookstore. So this book I got home and I thought this one looks familiar, and I do have a copy of this. When I do my 3-year anniversary video that's coming up in June, I may be giving one of these away. I'm going to be giving away some of my doubles amongst other goodies, so stay tuned for that. So this one is called 13 Tales of Horror by 13 Masters of Horror. It has Christopher Pike, R.L. Stine. This is a Scholastic book. So I do have another copy, a little bit of a different cover of this. And speaking of Christopher Pike, I actually found these books in my suitcase when I went to the cabin, and they were left over from some trip that I took. I don't even remember where I picked these up. I think it might have been in Richmond, Virginia. So these are Christopher Pike's Final Friends series, Book 2, The Dance, and Book 3, The Graduation. I don't know how many books in the series there are. These are pretty beat up, but these look like fun. If you are familiar with this series, let me know in the comments below. So this one has a great cover. I pounced on it when I saw it in the store. It's called, it's from Phantom Valley, which is, I guess, a young adult series. Stranger in the Mirror by Lynn Beach. This came out in, I guess, the late 80s, early 90s. The cover is fabulous. I want to collect all of them now. If you know this series, let me know in the comments, please. And speaking of series, I picked up, I know this author gets a lot of flack on some of the fantasy channels like Daniel Green. But this is Terry Brooks' Sword of Shannara, series 1, 2, and 3. I don't know if this is abridged for young adult. I found him in the young adult section because I think he wrote like an adult series of this. I've never read them, but I picked those up. They look nice. I don't know if there are more than just 3 books or what. This is a pretty cool cover, an old John Saul, Hellfire. Feels like I might have a copy of this already, but it kind of reminded me of like Scanners or something. I think I do have a copy of this. But this is uncracked spine, so it's in good condition. And lastly, I've never heard of this author or this book, but it looked pretty cool. Andrew Harper, Bad Karma. Darden State Hospital, it's taken its toll on Trey Campbell, a psychiatrist for the criminally insane. That's like right in my wheelhouse. I love that. Haunted by patients' anguished screams and broken minds, Dr. Campbell needs to get away. And Catalina Island is just the sanctuary. I've been to Catalina Island before. It's really beautiful. is just the sanctuary he and his family have been looking for, peaceful and isolated. Ha ha ha, that's what you think. It's a place where he thought no one would be able to find them. Kind of has like a Cape Fear feel to it. This looks like a good summer read. Okay, well, I was a little all over the place with this video, but I'm just catching up on things. Please let me know in the comments below if you've read any of the books I discussed today or showed you from my haul. I would love to hear your thoughts. So that's all I have for today. Thanks for stopping by my haunted library, and I'll see you soon. Glinda waves her wand. Bye.